Greetings, gamers. The curator, the lead writer for Wizard101, recently started a story thread on the Wizard101 forums where players could ask lore-related questions to get a direct answer from the developers. Today, we're going to be going over the top 5 things we've learned in the past week of this Q&A. If this sounds interesting to you, the thread will still be ongoing for a good while longer if you'd like to ask any questions. I'll link it in the description below. The first is that Arc 4 might not be set to 30 levels like Arc 3. Quote, and Lemuria might not be the last world of the Arc. We're going to let the Arc go as long as it needs to. I'm not going to pad a world in to get it up to 5 worlds, and I'm not going to jam-pack a final world to keep it to 3. Which could mean we'd be looking at a 4-world Arc ending at probably level 170, which would be very interesting. The game could be going in a similar direction to Pirate 101, which originally didn't keep to the 50-level story structure at all, whose first arc is a grand total of 70 levels. Another interesting revelation, one user asked the curator whether the Old One or Morganth would win in a fight, to which he replied, as to relative power levels, I don't like to make comparisons. They're both really powerful and would have had enough respect for each other's powers to never directly combat each other. So why didn't the Old One do anything about Morganth's plan, you asked? Who says he didn't? This is an interesting implication that Morganth, the villain from Arc 2, who of course tried to re-sing the Song of Creation and reform the Spiral, could have been intervened with by the Old One. The Old One and Morganth have sort of similar plans for their end goals with the Spiral. Both want to rebuild things and make them anew, whereas Morganth is just sort of boring chaos, and the Old One is essentially a traditionalist, wanting to bring back the Spiral to its original foundations and reunite the peoples. There have been a couple hints in previous posts that Morganth might come back in the future, and it would be interesting to see if she had a role in the end of Arc 4 or Arc 5 or whatever that may be, but I don't know, I'm not entirely sure on this one. The next interesting confirmation is that the creator has been retconned. There was a story very early on in the game's development, I think around 2008 even, that referenced a creature called the Creator making Bartleby and Raven and all the primordial beings. This text was replaced with the Fatui revamp earlier this year, meaning that the Creator is no longer canon, so we no longer have to ask questions about what this being may be, or where Raven and Spider and all those people may come from. Now, Raven, Spider, and Bartleby are the top of the cosmic food chain in the Wizard101 lore, unless something exists outside of the Spiral, but that's a story for another time. Talking about inspirations for the Old One, Johnson said, I can easily imagine that Celestian studies of dimensional spaces outside would have touched on our nothing and been instrumental in finding others to use as prisons. It has awareness and volition, it just never had anything to be aware of until recently. It's interesting that Johnson capitalizes outside here. There have always been references that things could exist outside of the Spiral, but there's never been any confirmation. Of course, at the beginning of Lemuria, when we're talking to the astral teacher in the Arcanum, he warns us against going to Lemuria because his society had studied the Nothing before and had found danger in it. It'll be interesting to see if the Celestians' connection to the Nothing is explored more in the future, especially seeing as the Nothing as a plotline will likely continue into the rest of Arc 4. The final interesting confirmation, a user actually asked the curator about the plotline of Polaris. You'll know if you've seen my channel for a while that I did a video a long time ago trying to figure out the Pirate 101 plotline, which is infamous for seemingly contradicting the Wizard101 plotline. The history of Polaris is filled with various wars and revolutions, and it's kind of a mess to figure out without good context, and all the direct experience we get from it is 10 levels of content in Wizard101, and the occasional side quest or two referencing it in Pirate 101, and of course our adventures with Napoleon there. Johnson comments, ah yes, Wizard vs. Pirate Polaris. It's a tangle. In most places we were very careful to try to keep the games in sync with each other, but Polaris got away from me. I'd rather not dig too far into it. Hopefully I'll get a chance to touch upon all that again and put it in a better place soon. Now, and of course Johnson is hopeful to return to the world of Pirate 101, but seeing Johnson excited to return to Pirate 101 content is, in my opinion, a good sign for the future of Pirate 101. We, of course, have the Stormgate to Krakatopia, the Stormgate to Polaris, which has existed for the past 6 years. I personally see Krakatopia as a more likely candidate for a future expansion to Pirate 101 than Polaris. mainly because the Sinbad questline added recently follows much more of that like Middle Eastern African feel, and also the intent decision to introduce a Krakatopia Stormgate shows more of an intention to go there than Polaris, whether or not that was the original plan back in 2016. Either way, it's good to see developers at King's Isle excited to talk about Pirate 101 again. And as far as 2022 goes, and as far as the upcoming KI Live goes, I'm very excited to see any hints for the future direction of the game. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned a little something from it. If you want to see more videos covering this story thread as the Q&A goes on, I'd love to make them. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, and have a wonderful rest of your day.